Hello, Facebook world. I know it's been about a week, but I'm back here for another Facebook Live with the director. I'm calling them deeper dives because it's in the mid 70s here, and I really don't want to turn. I don't want to light the fireplace up. So I think the fireside chats are done, and they'll probably move into something else. And I'm hoping in the near future these lives will go back to being at Glensheen, which I think would be great. But in the meantime, today I'm going to show you some random things that I enjoy about Glensheen. Some of them are things that I've learned since I've become director. Some of them are things I remember liking when I was a student. But without further ado, I'm going to show you some of these kind of awesome random details of Glensheen that people probably don't know about, that you probably walked by on tour and had no idea. But now I'm treating you to be a pro Glensheener so that when you walk through, you'll be like, oh, this is that thing that Dan was talking about that's way cooler than you think it is. And yeah, but before I almost forgot, please, if you have comments, please write them out. I will see them as they come. If you have questions in general, please send them. If there's things in the future you want to know more about, let me know. It's kind of fun. So that being said, I will start. Oh, from Odessa. Thank you, Marcy. So hopefully you guys can see this. Oh, I almost forgot my tab here. Hold on a second. Every time it turns this icon off and I got to redo it. Sorry. So we'll go to here. There we go. Finally, presentation mode. So we're going to start all the way at number 1. So I'm trying not to get you sick. This seems to be the one where I'm having issues with my tech because I was actually way more than ready. I sat here for like 5 minutes. Anyways, so we're going to start here at these classic pictures of Chester and Clara, which you've probably seen on tour, but you may not have been aware that they're designed by a guy named, or they're painted by David Erikson, one of the most famous painters in Duluth history. But you also probably don't know is that Chester and Clara funded David to do some of his art education. So at one point he actually goes over to Italy, and it was the Condons that funded his trip over there. Later on, they become actual friends, and you have some correspondence between them. But also, one of the paintings in the double guest room, you even have a little note to Mrs. Condon, and it's actually a painting of their backyard in Arizona. So, I mean, clearly there's a relationship there with David Erikson. If you want to see other works by David Erikson, they're throughout the mansion, but also there's the largest collection of David Erikson at the Tweed Museum up on campus at UMD. Amazing stuff up there. And my favorites, unfortunately, are up there. Also, they're just nice portraits. So, thank you, Ruby. And thank you, Sal. I'm glad to hear you like these. Nothing new on the diving mill, but thanks, Tom, for watching. So, we'll start here at the reception room. So, a lot of people know about the gold leaf ceiling, which, I'm wrong, it's very impressive. I do not have a gold leaf ceiling at my own house. But honestly, it's one of the least expensive things of the room. The little lights around there are worth phenomenally more than the gold leaf ceiling. Those are Kazel glass. Even this pendant that's hanging down from the center, which actually has an alabaster shade, is way more valuable than the gold leaf ceiling. And yeah, personally, I think the aesthetic of this alabaster shade is remarkable. And I love that it's cut thin enough so that the light actually can shine through it. And look at the detail working of just the carving of, what really was this rock. Now, also in the reception room is one of my probably top 5 small objects in the mansion. And it is this little incense burner that's probably the size of maybe my hand. And look at all of the gilding throughout this piece. It actually looks to be Japanese, and it might be, but it was actually purchased in Egypt, oddly enough. But just the detailing of this piece, some of the work has been done on a brush the size of a human hair. So if you can look closely, look at these little, what looks like to be Japanese men, and the brush strokes and the detailing. Just think of like the gilding of the gold on this is just so incredible. Once again, just impressed with the craftsmanship. Moving on into the smoking room, there is this looks to be a Native American on a horse, and it's one of the many statues we have in the inside of that main floor. And I was, oh, is this a Remington? No, it's not a Remington, but that doesn't mean it's not a big deal still. This is part of a set of 4, and just to show you the incredible artistic value of this, one of the other 4 is actually at the Met in New York City. So once again, the Met in New York City. So it's very easy to take the artwork for granted at Glensheen, but it is of very historic value and tells a great story about what's going on in the art world at the highest levels at the time Glensheen is being built. And this is see if I can say this correctly, Cypress Dallin, Dallin. Feel free to Google it. But it's just also just a really beautiful piece, and I love, once again, going to the detail level. You can really just take a better appreciation for the quality of this artist. Look at the hair on the horse. It's just a great piece. Now, on a completely different side, if you were ever a tour guide at Glensheen, this is something that you were always kind of despised at. It always got brought up in conversation. You didn't really want to talk about it. And frankly, we didn't know much about it. Oddly enough, nope, Chester did not own all 4. He owned just the 1. And that seems to be pretty complex. Thanks for the question, Linda. This basket is actually just pretty simple. That wire rope you see in the inside is just a little string, and it was used to tie up packages, and he'd tie up a package before he sent it off to the post office. That's all it really is. But still, it's just kind of it transports you back into that time. If this is Chester's work office, of course he's going to have something to wrap up his stuff. Also in that room, you have these hand-beaten copper water lilies to, look like water lilies. But I just love the theme of this room that we think John Bradstreet did. This is something that I just recently was shown. I had literally never been able to see these clamshells before. It wasn't like I didn't know to look. I just never knew they were there. I had asked one of my staff, hey, what should I talk about on a live? And they're like, talk about the clamshells. And I'm like, what? And so if you missed that live, here they are again. And if you still can't see the clamshell in the light, there's a little closer shot. It's right there, right there. And it's just these little details that I think are kind of fun and easy to miss. So the next time you're in our living room, find the clamshell. Those were done by the Edward Caldwell Company, and so was this. So this Indian spice chest that we forever had assumed that he picked us up on one of his travels, we recently learned that is more likely, honestly, from a catalog from Edward Caldwell. We have designs for it in the Caldwell Company, and more than likely this is something that Chester or Clara liked the look of, and they ordered it. But it's still a beautiful piece, probably made in America, by American craftsmen. And, just the details are still pretty remarkable and kind of fun to see. And it gives a little window into what's happening in 1909 in regards to it's more like today. Here's our famous Paris by Day, Paris by Night lampshade. As you look at it right now, you can see all the different scenes of Paris during the day. From the different cafes to the bars, to the hillside and the church. But what's great about this is that the inside of the light, if you're looking at, I should take a picture of this, but from the inside out, they cut out the nightlife. So when you turn it on at night, the nightlife lights up. Boom. So there, of course, the Moulin Rouge wheel is lit up. The nightlife scene of Paris is all lit up, which is just kind of a fun little feature, and I kind of want to make one of these lights at my own house. I won't do that, but it'd be fun to do. This is in here just because it's really weird and kind of creepy. But in one of the music boxes is this bird that clearly had better days. I bet when it was originally in this music box, it looked friendly. It doesn't look like that now. But it's just a fun random piece that a lot of people don't see, and it's right on the table in the library. I apologize if you read this. There is a little bit of potentially a swear word in this. But I like this picture because it shows you that Chester is a human. I love the first line. This book is not worth reading. I think sometimes when we visualize historic figures like Chester or George Washington, Martha Washington, whoever, we view them as almost like angelic figures. I personally have this issue with history that we as historians tend to think of past humans as either the greatest people that have ever lived or the worst people that have ever lived. They seem to never really be humans. We just seem to not be okay with them being normal. And when you read this here, it makes Chester more normal, and I think that's what I like about this. And yeah, so it's kind of funny though. There is that line in the middle that I won't say out loud. I think is great. Also in the library, I just like these lights. It's so dark in there you can't see this detail. But notice the 3 different types of metal now that make up this light. This is the main hall light, and I just want to point out the glass. Hey, I think this is a good photo. But the Kazel glass, so the light fixture is made by Edward Cowell. The light fixtures are made by, and the glass is made by Kazel. If you ever go to an estate sale and you see Kazel glass, especially if you're in Duluth, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. People don't know the value of these things. At the time, they are more critically acclaimed than Tiffany was. This design you see in the lights is actually patented. It's a very special formula in order to make this. They're famous also for when their lights are on or off, which I'll show you later. But either way, like, it's a beautiful piece. And of course, there's that famous pineapple in the dead center. So next time you take the tour and you see this Kazel glass, be like, this is a little more special than I think it is. Also, I will say, these lights currently are lit up better than they were. Until a couple of years ago, we used typically incandescent light bulbs and, or CFLs, and they have a white light to them. The new LEDs we purchased have a filament light, and so it has a more natural glow that probably the original Thomas Edison style light bulbs also had. And so you're finally seeing the color you are meant to see when you look at these lights 100 years ago. This is the luster tile fireplace in the master bedroom. One of my favorite, only because until very recently, my view of this tile was this. I thought it was a great pomegranate theme, thought it was nice, arts and crafts. One day I wanted to take a better photo of it, so I got down on one knee and looked up with the camera, and bam, turned out it's phenomenally better than I was expecting. Now you can notice that there's actually gold gilding on the side. You'll notice that the leaves are actually blown iridescent glass. And so I advise everyone on tour, take a knee, look up. It's remarkably better looking than you're thinking. And I did nothing. There's no tricks to the camera here, guys. This is just the light coming off from the window. Helen's room, you've seen me talk about this before, but the on and off light fixtures here. So this is when they're off. This is when they're on. Remarkably better. Caught me in a little bit of the camera. But, once again, and that's what that Kazel glass is famous for. Servants' quarters. So, this is, I think, one of the biggest, sad moments of Glensheen currently, is when people walk into the servants' quarters, it looks very plain and very simple. That was not the case for the servants' quarters. Originally, this actually had hand-drawn stenciling from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor, and was probably way more colorful. So we've taken a small section off, and you can see here what that original hand-drawn stenciling looked like in a part. But my dream of dreams is to uncover all of that at some point, so we can all see what the original intent of the servants' quarters was. Becky, there are around 15, and all floors of the house will be open when we're open for tours again. Breakfast room. So there's a lot of things I could talk about in here, but the weird random detail I'm going to talk about is this. And I've talked about it before, but it's just such a cool thing. So the Condons, especially Chester, was really borderline obsessed with horticulture. And when they build the property, they build a 60,000 gallon water reservoir to make sure that there's natural creek water for the irrigation system on site. And one of the lines they had was go into the house, into this fountain, so they could water the plants in the house with natural creek water. And here it is. We turned the fountain off in the 1980s, so that way visitors wouldn't drink creek water while on tour. Janice, we do not put fires in the fireplaces anymore. Would love to, but for a variety of reasons, we don't currently. But there's a healthy debate about that in the history community. Um, but I think bringing the element of fire is always a little scary for people. Here is one of my favorite pieces. This little vase. I need to take better pictures of this. It is made out of ivory, so obviously has a sad history to it. But the guy who carved it is one of the better ivory carvers in the world. When Chester takes a trip to Japan, he asked, what special shops should I go out of my way to see? And his art dealer said, go to this shop. And he purchased this vase, and it's actually more valuable than the other ones because it is broken. And if you look, you'll see this crack down the side. The designer actually fixed the crack by creating 2 ivory pins from the inside, and then the pins poke out from the outside. And then where the pin popped out, he created a floral design so you don't even see that there's actually a bracket on the inside. But how he made that from the inside with a small hammer, I have no idea. But just that artistry and craftsmanship, I think, is incredible. Look at the dragon, look at the lion. This photo does a really serious disservice to this piece. But either way, at some point, I might even have an entire live on this thing. Thank you, Ruby. It's a pretty cool space, too. And that is the end of my showcase today. So I will go out. So thanks for watching another live. And I apologize, Janice, I misread your thing. We do show the showers on, I think, every tour we have. And our 3rd floor tour shows the ones up on the boys' floor, too. They are a very unique feature of Glensheen. Yeah. Any other questions, folks? I'm going to scan through these. Yeah, I think I'm pretty good. So thanks for watching. I will continue to look through these comments. So if you watch this video after the live and you have a question, I will try to answer it. And once again, if you have ideas for future ones, let me know. And stay safe out there and enjoy this thing we call summer in Minnesota. It's short-lived, but it is amazing. Thanks, guys.